The first day of rehearsal is a combination of the director meeting the cast and presenting his concepts to the cast members.
So as we started in with all of our research and figuring out which direction we were going to go, you can't divorce the idea of what the story on stage is with the conception and original production of the story, and why Verdi, where he was in his life.
Thaddeus was able to go through the production, show everybody the set, the renderings he had done of what each scene would look like. We were able to show them all of the costume sketches that Maddie had made, so they had an idea of what the look of the production would be. He also was able to go through his vision of the production, talking about its setting in period La Scala of when the production first premiered. And then, after he's laid the groundwork, we'll start with the first scene.
Most directors like to work from the start of the opera and then work straight through in order. It's good not only for them, but as well as for the cast to have that continuity on how the piece itself flows.
You want this? Two hands.
Directors come into the rehearsal process having an idea of what they want to do, where the singers need to be on stage, how he wants to move the chorus, and how he wants to move the dancers or the supers.
So literally, you're starting here, and you are moving this slowly as you go around. Because there's two reasons for this. One, general health and safety. And two, we have the soprano downstage singing a really famous aria, and you are meant to be part of the background action that's starting to swirl psychologically in her head.
Sometimes the singer will bring an idea with them saying, I don't really feel comfortable standing still the entire time. Would it be all right if I move over here? Sure, why not? We'll try it. And some things you try and they just don't make sense, or someone ends up standing in front of the other person, or the movement isn't telling the story, things like that. And we go on from there and we do the next scene and so on and so on.
And it's a very collaborative process, and that's what I love about it. I think for me, personally, the rehearsal process is my favorite part. It's the actual creative process of going from nothing to something. As opera singers, you're just kind of thrown into this environment with people that you don't know. And from day one, I have to be acting as if I've had a relationship with Fenena, for instance, for years and years, when I just met Geraldine that day. And so you're thrown into these very intimate relationships with people.
In the rehearsal rooms, the key thing to get done is really the director's idea of the motivation of each character, developing the character for each of the soloists, and the motivation and the interplay between each character. At the same time, it's what we refer to as a staging, or their blocking. Where are they on stage? Do they enter from stage right, or do they enter from stage left? All of that's worked out in the rehearsal room.
It's always a joy how we create together something. We had a beautiful time in Tacoma Park.
We spend about 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks in the rehearsal room before we move to the stage.
Chorus and everyone else, please try to stay upstage. Look at your entrances, look at the stairs, look at your obstacles, find your prop tables. Take the stage, please.
Moving to the stage, the rehearsals I find are most exhilarating. The first rehearsal on stage is called the piano tech rehearsal. It's sort of the day we've all been waiting for.
So the first day we're on stage, it's just really about understanding the space and figuring out how you're going to transfer what you thought you were doing into what we're really going to do. We don't have orchestra, we don't have costumes, we just have the real props and the real sets, and everybody starts to get to know it.
Franco, togli prima la corona dalla testa e poi strappi il velo, così due cose, lo vediamo e non fa male alla schiena e il collo di Fenena. Va bene? Però comunque andiamo in avanti adesso. Tu vieni tra le ragazze, togli, strappa, giù. Al capo mio la prendi. Sì. Meglio così. e poi tutto benissimo con sacerdote funziona. Let's go up to giù prostrati.
It's rehearsal 40, maestro.
40, we jump ahead.
The whole rehearsal process is a layering process. We add one thing at a time. So next we go into the piano dress. We now add the costumes, the makeup, and the lighting. They're still singing with the piano, but now they start to get familiar with how their costume feels on them. The trick is not to give them everything at one time, that they can gradually add one thing at a time so they can focus on each new element as we introduce it to them. Then we go into what's called the Sitzprobe. Literally translated, it means seated rehearsal. It's the cast and the orchestra getting together for the first time. There's no staging, there's no sets, there's no costumes, there's no lighting. It's just the singers gloriously singing through the opera from beginning to end. And that's the maestro's rehearsal. It's the opportunity for both the orchestra and the singers to really focus on the music, to be able to hear each other. And it gives Maestro Auguin that opportunity to coordinate the timings and the tempos, keeping in sync the orchestra with the cast and vice versa. The orchestra tech is where we bring it all together. Now we've had a chance to work on each various element and add them gradually. Now everything comes together. So it's the orchestra accompanying the full cast. They're in full costume, full wigs and makeup, lighting, all the scenery, all the props, everything together.
Finally, we have all the elements of the production in one place, and it's kind of exciting. It's really just about making the staging work with the orchestra. The final dress is our last opportunity before going to opening night, and that is similar to a preview for a play in theater. We perform the opera in its entirety as if it actually was a performance. We do have an invited audience. It fills about half of the auditorium, and it's our first chance to hear an audience reaction. If things were funny that we didn't expect to, that's nice to know. But also having the applause is a good thing for everybody, not just on stage, but off stage, to hear, to know how people react. And it's our one chance to make sure we've got everything in the right place before opening night, and then it's for real.